unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This episode is brought to you by White Cloud Coffee Roasters, where every bean tells a story of adventure. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com and use the code CREATIVITY.
Welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity. And today we're going to talk about how to put your experience, your creativity, even in our guest case, athletic endurance, into your cause, all your courage, all your power into a cause. And my guest is Dr. Matthew Harmody. Matt, welcome to the show.
Great to be here with you, Mark. Thank you.
Matt is a retired emergency physician, but he's also a living kidney donor and one of the leading advocates for kidney donation in the U.S. In fact, he donated a kidney to a stranger and then dedicated his whole post-medical career to eliminating the national kidney waitlist. He's applied education, mentorship, policy reform, and is now the chair of the National Kidney Donation Organization, and author of a terrific book, Ascending America, which we really want to dive into about how this told the story of climbing summits to raise awareness for this cause. Matt, there's a lot going on in this discussion.
Thank you for that very generous introduction, Mark.
I guess we just start with your transition from the ER to this altruism, this cause of kidney donation. After the years you spent in the ER, you trained, you assess all the risks. But what inspired you to donate a kidney and then redirect the whole course of your altruism?
Sure. My story actually starts back when I was an undergraduate student. I was preparing for final exams. I received an unexpected call from my mother. It was about my father. He was 50 at the time. He had been dragged to the hospital, and that's saying a lot, to take him to do something he didn't want to do because he was in a lot of pain and quite ill. And it turned out to be that his kidneys were in complete failure and that he was going on a process called dialysis on an emergent basis, essentially to save his life. That came as a complete shock to the family and set in motion the next 9 years of my father's life, being a gradual decline in his health and his ability to do things. He, for the most part, went to dialysis 3 times a week to a dialysis center. It's about a 4-hour process. You spend the rest of the day sleeping mostly, the following day recovering, and then the second day later going back for another treatment. It led to a significant decline in his health, and he reached a point where, Mark, he didn't really care to have that type of lifestyle where he really couldn't do much of anything. He was an outdoorsman, loved to hunt and fish, and he finally decided at age 59 that he did not want to take dialysis any longer and withdrew care, and of course subsequently died shortly thereafter. I was an engineer at the time of his death, and that led me to go back to medical school at age 30 after working for several years as an engineer in corporate America. And I trained as an emergency physician, as you had mentioned, and over those 25 years or so of practice, I probably saw a dialysis patient every day, each of them reminding me of my father and what he went through.
Right.
And I reached a point where I could not help my father by donating to him, as he chose not to want to risk my health by being a donor to him. And we can talk a little bit more about that. So in 2017, I decided to donate to a stranger. I felt that if I couldn't help my father, I could at least help someone else that was on the wait list. And as you had mentioned, I'm retired now. Really, most of my what I call my professional time now is spent in the kidney donation advocacy space, and the chair of the National Kidney Donation Organization that you just mentioned. And we advocate for people to consider living kidney donation. We provide a lot of education and opportunity, and we also mentor people that want to consider being a living kidney donor.
Yes. Thanks, first of all, for being so open about your personal and your family story. But there's a lot of myths and misunderstanding about kidney donation in general, but even more so living kidney donation. That it might be dangerous, it's limiting, it's something you only do for your family. What has surprised you the most? I guess not only medically, but emotionally about living donors.
It's well, there's several things that immediately come to mind. One, it's a very broad group of people from every walk of life, every type of background, every interest you can imagine. And though the book talks about some pretty extreme physical activity that the team took on and accomplished, most people are not engaged in those types of activities. So it's important to understand that you don't have to be a world-class athlete to be a kidney donor. In fact, the majority of people are of average activity, but we wanted to dispel one of the myths that you just mentioned, Mark, and that you really can do anything physically that you want to do, and especially that you did before donation, after donating a kidney. So that was the biggest myth that we were after with this adventure, is to prove that not to be the case.
Let's get into the book. I'm glad you brought it up. Ascending America: 5 kidney donors, 50 states, one record-breaking journey. It documents the whole Guinness Book of World Record journey. You're summiting the highest point in every state. How do you feel this extreme, I guess, adventure challenge became a platform for the kidney donation advocacy cause?
Dave Ashley, who was instrumental in getting this project started, has actually summited the highest point in each of the 7 continents. Most people refer to that as the 7 summits, obviously. And while I think some people can relate to some of those places around the world, I think a lot of people have some trouble relating to what it's like to be on Mount Everest, for example, or Mount Kilimanjaro. So he wanted to bring something closer to home, and that being the 50 states. Everyone I talk to, when they ask about the book, almost everyone knows where their high point is in their particular state.
That's right.
And many people have been there before or have been to other high points. So it was important for us to bring that home, so to speak. Also, a lot of people came out and supported us. A lot of people followed us on social media. And of course, most of us being competitive athletes on the team, when Dave found out that there was a Guinness World Record for that, I think that was the final step in supporting.
So we're not just going
doing
to
this
climb
effort.
it. We're going to set a record.
It's much more interesting if you're on the clock, right?
There you go. I love that. And there's a certain motivation behind it. And I've watched some of your talks, and you speak about the neuroscience, I'll call it, but there's a certain brain activation behind doing good. From your experience, why do you think that we as individuals want to connect with these selfless acts, whether it's kidney donation or seeking world records, climbing summits? There's a certain activation that we connect with, don't we?
Yes, there is. And that's actually had some scientific evidence to your statement there. Dr. Abigail Marsh, I think, is probably the leading scientist in that area. And she's actually done MRIs of brains and mostly living kidney donors, and found that there's actually an enlargement of the part of the brain called the amygdala. And she's also done studies where those that are psychopathic by nature actually have smaller areas of that part of the brain. So it coincides with both sides of that argument.
Yes. It's so interesting that here we say we want to do the right thing, but the systems, the obstacles that sometimes get in the way. I wanted to talk a little bit about the policies and the systems and the processes of kidney donation, of organ transplant in general. How does the system itself need to be addressed so that those of out there who say they want to do the right thing can help their fellow man.
Yes, I think it's most important that people understand that in your interest of doing the right thing, and I think we're all on this earth to help people and help each other, that in most cases, the system works well and is very supportive of those that are interested in donating. I know there's been a lot of news lately about the deceased organ donation side and how it's not terribly efficient and maybe we could do better. And every system can certainly be improved. But the system is also very safe. And I say that mostly in regards to living kidney donation. It's most people would argue that you're not gaining anything as a donor. And in medicine, we take ultimate safety precautions in those that may not be benefiting. I completely would disagree about benefits of being a living kidney donor. But having said that, the checks and balances in the system to making sure that you're medically, psychologically, socially safe to donate. The transplant centers go through a very rigorous process, and only about 1.5% of people that sign up to be considered for living kidney donation actually make it through the process. So it's very selective, very safe. In fact, I would point out that a recent study suggested that a woman going through a normal term pregnancy is slightly more riskier than being a living kidney donor. Those risks are very small, don't get me wrong, but there's a slight difference in favor of living kidney donation being very safe. And we take term pregnancy and delivery for granted. It's happened hundreds, if not thousands of times a day in this country. And that's part of my goal, is to somewhat normalize living kidney donation, especially from a safety standpoint.
Yes. And the cause of eliminating the National Kidney wait list, I mean, that you talk about, it sounds like climbing Mount Everest. It sounds like a moon landing kind of a mission. But is it possible? And what do you think it's going to take to maybe achieve such a big, lofty goal?
I think it is, but it falls in that category, Mark, of the definition of insanity. So doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, despite all the efforts from a lot of great people in the transplant community, we have not raised or increased the number of living kidney donors over the last 20 years. So I think some new ideas need to be tried. The list generally continues to grow. I mean, unfortunately, 11 to 17 people die every day that are on that wait list waiting for a kidney. And that really should be unacceptable in this wealthy country of ours. The other sad fact, and there are many with respect to chronic kidney disease, is that of all those people on the wait list, about half will die before they receive a transplant. So it's just a devastating condition to have. And dialysis is a very poor substitute for a real kidney.
Sure. People are going to want to know about this work and the cause and kidney donation advocacy, and also to learn about the book. Matt, where can we connect with you and learn more about this?
So I would offer you two options, Mark. My website has all the information that anyone would want to know about the book and our 50 States adventure, and that's mattharmodymd.com. And then for those that are just more interested in living kidney donation, what it's like to have kidney disease, how they can help. And again, I've never asked anyone individually to become a living kidney donor. It's more education and an invitation to learn more about it. They can do that at our National Kidney Donation Organization website, and that's www.nkdo.org. And they really can get all their questions answered. We have webinars on a frequent basis. It's our nonprofit organization. It's pure advocacy work. And we just want to educate people, make them informed. And even if you don't become a living kidney donor, Mark, you can learn about it. You can help understand what leads to kidney disease. You can avoid it. You can lead a healthier lifestyle. And if someone you know is suffering from kidney disease, you can refer them there for more information.
Yeah, it's so prevalent. Certainly, someone or someone is in your family for sure.
Yes,
Yes.
without question.
Yes. I want to also touch on the creative aspect of putting together the book and the stories and the whole process for you, because I think that would be informative for listeners who might have a cause or they want to talk about the power of their giving or something like that. What, from your experience in putting together the book, Ascending America, would you take away from the process?
Yeah, there are several significant aspects, answers to that question, Mark. But growing up, I would have considered myself a non-creative person. I considered creativity being art, drawing, music. I would say I had no gifts in those areas, but it's probably I just didn't have that interest or drive. And in part why I became an engineer. And you would think an engineer and medicine really lack a significant environment of creativity. But I would beg to differ because I really think creativity is operating under certain constraints to bring meaning to a project, a cause, your life for that matter. And I really think creativity is bringing all your life experiences together to, again, support a cause or attempt a project. And I will have to admit, the first draft of the book read like somebody's journal. I went here, I did this, I went there, I did that. Probably classic engineering approach. And one of the probably the best decisions I made in this whole process, Mark, was agreeing to have a writing coach. So that took me back to my high school days, and I wasn't getting my drafts back to me with red ink all over them. In this day and age, it's a shared Word document with comments down the side. And we went chapter by chapter. And the first thing I did when I got the draft back from my coach was to scroll through the whole chapter and estimate how many comments there were on the margins. They were in the 100 to start, but I'm not too old to learn new tricks, so they became less and less, and I'm sure my coach was happy about that. But it turned the book into a story, and I think people just take away much more information and meaning when they're reading about stories. And of course, the whole book is one giant story, but within that adventure, there were so many anecdotes and small stories that really, I think, brings the book to life. And I just had a former partner at a meeting yesterday tell me that he couldn't put the book down and read it all in a couple of nights. And that's what I hope people get from that is storytelling and a cause. And it's not for the faint of heart. In other words, everything didn't go well. It's not a fantasy story. We had trials and tribulations. You speak about creativity. I think we adjusted our plan at time by the hour because of weather, because of circumstances, because of a missed turn, because somebody's sick. There was countless number of challenges that required the team to come together. And we had team meetings at least once a day to solve problems. And we were on the clock. So it wasn't just a casual vacation across the country. We were pressing and trying to optimize everything.
Yes. Wow, wonderful. First of all, on this show, we definitely acknowledge that every profession, no matter what degree you have, what title you have, has creativity. And folks, if you've never hung out on a Saturday night in the emergency room at your local hospital, you're going to see creativity at its finest if you want that. And if you want to figure out how to make a bridge stand up or a drilling platform stay in the water, talk to your favorite engineer. So yeah,
Yes.
all of these have some creativity built into it.
Yeah, medicine has a lot of algorithms, a lot of science, but at the end of the day, every patient's an individual with their own set of circumstances. And that's what I thought really made the practice of medicine, especially emergency medicine, very enjoyable. So every shift, every patient, again, had a story to tell, what their circumstances were, what their risk tolerance was. And a lot of what I did was education, a lot more than I would have thought of I would be doing coming out of medical school.
Yeah, fantastic. My guest has been Dr. Matt Harmody. Matt, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, sharing your personal stories, but also sharing your passion for the cause of kidney donation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure being with you.
Yeah, and all the best. Keep us posted. I'd love to talk to you again as things develop and new causes. I'm sure you've got another idea on the horizon to continue to raise awareness.
Yes, I'd be happy to do. Thank you.
Very good. And listeners, come back again. We're going to continue these round the world journeys talking to creative practitioners of all kinds, as I mentioned, in all kinds of roles, about how they get inspired and how they organize ideas, but also how we gain the confidence, the connections, the passion, and the creative outlets to bring our cause to the forefront. And that's what this podcast is all about. So until next time, I'm Mark Stinson. We'll keep unlocking your world of creativity.